The End of Lawyers. Rethinking the Nature of Legal Services. Richard Susskind. 5. The Future for In-House Lawyers. It is tempting to believe that law firms live at the center of the legal universe. In most jurisdictions, the great majority of lawyers are indeed in private practice. Many of the best-known brands in the legal profession do belong to law firms. The largest of the firms undoubtedly receive considerable media attention, and it is law firms that tend to be the first port of call when serious legal advice is needed. But where do clients sit in the legal pecking order? Last year in 2, I spoke at around 25 events, conferences, seminars, and workshops for clients, or more precisely, for in-house lawyers. I was struck then by how seldom these corporate counsels spoke about law firms. Instead, and understandably, they were preoccupied with themselves, with the broader performance of the businesses in which they sat, and with issues such as compliance, risk management, and dispute resolution. In these meetings, the law firms that served them were not discussed very much at all, and certainly not as central players. They were spoken of, respectfully as a general rule, but as a pool of service providers at the edge rather than as key players at the core. There is a salutary reminder here for law firms. Lawyering in private practice is a second-order activity. Without organizations and individuals going about their daily activities and facing legal issues, there is nothing or no one for lawyers to counsel. There is no business to be done. While this may seem self-evident and hardly worth observing, many partners speak and behave as though the work of their law firms is of prime significance in and of itself. There is good reason to argue, therefore, as in all sophisticated sectors where the customer is king, that it is clients who sit at the center of the legal universe. One specialist subset of the client community is the in-house legal department of businesses and public sector bodies. Here we generally find the most knowledgeable and discerning of all legal clients. These clients are lawyers themselves. Surprisingly, despite their pivotal role and special insight, relatively little scholarship, empirical research, or academic commentary have been devoted to in-house lawyers, on how they work, how they are managed, and how they integrate within the organizations in which they sit. In this chapter, I want to patch that gap in a modest way, by considering in some detail the relevance of information technology, IT, for in-house lawyers and how their systems should interact with those of law firms. Before delving into that subject, however, I must raise a more fundamental and perhaps rather unsavory issue, one that is a potential obstruction at the heart of the lawyer-client relationship. 5. The asymmetry between lawyers and clients. It is seldom acknowledged explicitly that there is a fundamental asymmetry between the commercial interests of law firms and those of their clients. In the ordinary course of events, when a client, whether an individual or a major organization, instructs a lawyer, it will generally be the hope of the client that the involvement of the lawyers and the resultant fees can be kept to a bare minimum. While the engagement of lawyers is not always a necessary evil or a distress purchase, it is fair to say that most clients would prefer to avoid or minimize legal expenses, whether for the resolution of disputes, assistance with transactions, or for some more general or particular advice. Those who hold the purse strings, whether of the lofty boardroom budget or of the weekly household kitty, want to avoid overspending on legal matters. Contrast this cost consciousness of clients with the very different cost consciousness of most lawyers when a client or potential client walks into their offices with new work. It is hard for lawyers in this situation to suppress the hope that the circumstances that have precipitated the visit are those that require extended and detailed attention by a serious team of legal advisors. A law firm, after all, is a business, and its fee income and profitability depends on clients needing legal help. The more clients and the bigger the legal challenges, the larger the income and profitability might be. And then there are the expenses. When some years ago, I heard a litigator friend outline a potential case, and then add, with some relish, "I smell first-class travel. This chap did not reveal a passion for controlling the costs and disbursements incurred on his client's behalf. The client would have been horrified, of course. Lawyers should remember that, for most clients, legal expenses are an overhead to be monitored, managed, and trimmed. Here, then, is the fundamental tension. The client will generally hope their legal requirements are routine and can be disposed of quickly and painlessly, while the law firm will generally hanker after more challenging instructions that will occupy them for some time. The law firm is not improper in harboring such aspirations and is no different here from most professionals, including architects, management consultants, tax advisors, investment bankers, and many more. But another approach and ethos is imaginable. I think of the legal advice that my brother gives me when I need guidance on a point of law. If I say to him that I think I have a legal problem, he does not hope that it is a gargantuan can of worms that will keep his firm occupied for weeks. He hopes, almost as much as I do, that he can dispose of my issue quickly and painlessly. He does not write me a long letter. We do not have long formal meetings. Instead, and usually by phone, he gives me punchy, practical, jargon-free, and actionable help. Imagine, then, if all lawyers served their clients as though they were advising their close friends or family. A very few do, most do not. On the strength of extended involvement with general counsel and other in-house lawyers over the past 20 years or so, I have come to the view that the ideal law firm is one that not only exhibits and brings to bear technical excellence, but is one that also strives to align its commercial interests with those of its clients. A firm that, in the spirit of the lawyer advising a friend or family, has a shared hope of keeping clients, legal difficulties and expenses to a minimum, is a legal business that could create enormous, even unprecedented, levels of confidence and would deserve the often misplaced honorific of trusted advisor. While it might seem, at first glance, that this would be commercially naive and self-destructive for the law firm, the technically excellent firm that shared its clients' enthusiasm for minimizing the involvement and cost of lawyers would, in the medium or longer term, be precisely the legal practice that would attract the genuinely complex and high-value work that inevitably faces most businesses, at least at some stage. There are two fundamental obstacles facing most firms attracted to this approach. The first is that many, if not most, lawyers who work in law firms turn out to be poor empathizers. This is not speculation on my part. It is a finding of a series of research projects that I have conducted for my law firm clients over the years, and has been confirmed on innumerable occasions when I have held workshops with in-house lawyers. Remarkably, most in-house counsel say that law firms generally do not understand the client organizations that they advise. It is not that they lack a broad understanding of the nature and structure of the businesses and the sectors in which they operate, but that firms do not strive to find out what it is actually like to work as an in-house lawyer within any given client organization. Law firms, the claim continues, are generally not alive to the culture of client organizations, the ways in which lawyers are regarded, the appetite for risk, the extent of the internal bureaucracies, the nature of the internal communication mechanisms, and, importantly, the realpolitik and broader business context of disputes and deals that are being advised upon. In part, this does indeed betray an inability to empathize. Too often, partners from law firms are reported to pontificate at meetings without pausing for breath, rather than focusing their energy on what is actually on the minds of their clients. In the language of popular psychology, I say that law firms are from Mars, while clients are from Venus. Where law firms are determined to supply definitive answers, clients are often wanting no more than for their advisors to appreciate what it is like to be in their position and to get a sense of the bigger picture. If this diagnosis is accurate, and law firms really do fail to put themselves in their clients' shoes and look at business issues through their eyes and from their perspective, then how can they genuinely align their interests with those of their clients, and, in turn, justifiably secure the position of trusted advisor? The second obstacle is an old chestnut. It is the curse of hourly billing. More printer cartridges have been consumed in discussion of this topic than most others in the field of law firm management. Like many other commentators, I have been anticipating the demise of hourly billing for many years now. Most forcefully, since I read a convincing anthology of articles published by the American Bar Association in One, which presented a possible array of alternative billing methods. And yet, this method of charging has proven to be remarkably resilient and still dominates the mindset as well as the daily invoicing of law firms. Today, even when hourly billing is not directly in play, often the ways in which alternative methods are conceived, for example on a fixed-fee basis, are underpinned by a model of value rooted in time spent. However, the fact that alternative methods are being adopted with growing enthusiasm across the legal sector does suggest that the tide is turning. Until the late 1950s, the standard way of billing in the legal profession, in England and the US at least, was through some kind of fixed-fee arrangement, ordinarily regulated by minimum fee schedules, as recommended by local state bar associations or law societies. However, after a decision by the U.S. Supreme Court had declared such schedules to be in violation of antitrust laws, hourly billing emerged as the standard method of charging, certainly amongst commercial law firms. In a masterful article on the subject, Professor Huskin Lebelbisai of the University of Illinois provides a detailed historical account of law firm billing practices and concludes that law firms are undergoing fundamental transformations in their billing practices and pricing strategies. Here is further evidence to suggest that hourly billing may be reaching the end of its natural life. And so it must, if law firms are genuinely to align their commercial interests with those of their clients. So long as the focal point of law firms' profitability is premised on the number of hours spent advising clients, their motivation will always tend to be to spend more rather than less time on the work, where clients will prefer precisely the contrary. Only when the fees rendered reflect the value of the work to the client will law firms and their clients share the same commercial perspective. I can see that hourly billing is a model with which some general counsel are quite comfortable, in part because they themselves have often been recruited from law firms that prospered under this charging regime. But this should not deter us from the reality. At worst, hourly billing can tempt lawyers to dishonesty. At best, it is an institutional disincentive to efficiency. To put it more crudely, hourly billing often rewards the inefficient practice that milks the work given to it, and it penalizes the well-run legal business, whose systems and processes enable it to conclude matters rapidly. This simple truth was brought into focus recently for me when undertaking a project with my then 12-year-old daughter, Ali. We had agreed that she would help me, as a summer job, to build my database of contacts. Once we had settled upon the matter of data input, we turned to the question of payment. I suggested to Ali that I would pay her a certain amount per hour. She thought about this only very briefly, smiled, and said, "I'll take my time then." If a 12-year-old girl can immediately recognize the intrinsic commercial weakness of hourly billing, it is remarkable that the world's most venerable profession cannot do similarly and overhaul its practices. Failure to do so will perpetuate the mismatch between the commercial interests of lawyers and those of their clients. The most powerful case study of which I am aware in this context is that of the in-house legal department of Cisco. Their general counsel, Mark Chandler, is one of the world's most innovative in-house lawyers. He has publicly stated his aversion to hourly billing on numerous occasions, and indeed percent of his annual spend on legal matters, us $1 million, is now on a fixed-fee basis. Strikingly, one law firm undertakes almost all of Cisco's commercial litigation for an annual fixed fee. This shocks most litigators, because the conventional wisdom is that litigation, by its very nature, is an open-ended process. At the outset of many disputes, this conventional wisdom maintains, no one can anticipate the likely time or resources required to bring the conflict to an end. Clients are therefore asked to pay for the number of hours spent. Cisco takes a different approach, and so, in turn, does the firm that it instructs. Other than for exceptional disputes, the company expects one law firm to look after all its litigation for a fixed fee. What is fascinating is that the law firm in question, after finding its profitability impacted after 2 years of the arrangement, only agreed to continue at the same price on the understanding that they could be far more heavily involved in advising at an early stage on the high-risk areas of Cisco's business. They asked to be able to attend certain meetings, review particular documents, and be allowed a level of access and involvement that litigators would not normally enjoy prior to problems arising. In addition, they decided to deploy contract attorneys rather than their associates to undertake routine work for Cisco, such as processing subpoenas and some document review. This was because of the heavy costs incurred in employing associates. The starting salaries in the U.S. for new associates in large law firms, immediately after graduation from law school, are now in excess of $1. And this surely, in a most convincing way, illustrates my point about the alignment of law firms and clients' interests. In the case of Cisco, because it is directly in the law firm's interest to minimize the expense and effort expended on litigation, the nature of their involvement and participation in their clients' affairs has changed radically. They have as strong an interest as Cisco in avoiding disputes, and accordingly, are offering what amounts to a range of legal risk management services as well as conventional help with dispute resolution, and some subcontracting too. Cisco's handling of its litigation is a case study in the future of legal services. Other case studies are coming through as I write. We have recently seen a few in-house legal departments, for example, that of Tyco International, retaining single firms to undertake all or most of their work. These arrangements are underpinned by complex schemes of incentives and safeguards, all of which are intended to lead to better commercial alignment between firms and clients than has been possible in the past. 5. The law firm Grid. Unsurprisingly, given the company's dominance in the provision of Internet services, part of Cisco's success lies in its commitment to finding ways of using it to improve the delivery of legal services. However, very few in-house legal departments have Cisco's technological expertise or Mark Chandler's insight. My challenge in the remainder of this chapter is to help the late adopters. I do so by introducing another model. This one clarifies the scope and relevance of it for the in-house legal department, but before I do this, there is some groundwork to be done. To understand it for the legal department, I believe we need to start with a clear understanding of the ways in which law firms have exploited it over the past few decades, because they have led the way. In a collection of essays entitled Transforming the Law, I introduced a new model that I called the grid. This is a shorthand, uniform way of analyzing the impact and interrelationships of IT, knowledge management, e-business, and various other related concepts. I had developed the grid to respond to an ongoing challenge that I faced at that time. At meetings with senior partners from law firms, I was finding, even in the heady days of the dot-com euphoria, that unless I could capture the imagination of a senior partner within 10 minutes or so, assuming they had no special interest in it, then I had lost them. And so, based largely on my experience of providing consulting services to major law firms, I set about developing a model that I hoped would, at once, clarify some of the jargon in the world of legal technology, highlight the broad areas of potential investment, and even generate some enthusiasm. Like all models, as I always stress, it is an oversimplification of the reality that it seeks to capture and explain. Nonetheless, I have found that senior lawyers with little interest in technology do seem to find it helpful. As depicted in Figure 5, the grid is made up of a horizontal axis, with technology at the extreme left-hand side and knowledge at the extreme right. In between sits information. I am suggesting here that there is a spectrum in the world of IT, so that when people speak of IT, they can mean anything from their raw technology, perhaps the cabling or the hardware at one end, through to very advanced systems for capturing and sharing knowledge at the other. And in the middle, admittedly rather vaguely, is the idea of information systems. Running vertically, the second axis is labeled internal at the bottom and client at the top. This draws the distinction between uses of it within a law firm and applications that are accessible by clients. On the grid that is created by the intersection of these two axes, the space below the line is intended to refer to internal systems, and the space above the line denotes systems for use by clients. The grid comprises 4 quadrants. In the bottom left is what I call back-office technology. In this category fall systems such as word processing, electronic mail, instant messaging, social networking, video conferencing, document management systems, accounting and finance systems, marketing databases, human resource systems, project management systems, workflow tools, client relationship management systems, diarying applications, as well as the hardware, networks, and various operating systems that underpin these applications. Back-office technologies in law firms are little different from back-office systems in any other businesses. Although many of these systems are rather unglamorous, not least because they are hidden from clients, they generally attract the great bulk of law firms' investment in it. They provide the basic infrastructure for the running of much of the law firm, and the extent to which law firms rely on them cannot be overstated. If the average law firm were simultaneously denied access to its word processing, electronic mail, and financial systems, I would hazard that the business would collapse in a modest number of days. Fig. 5. The law firm grid in the bottom right quadrant of the grid are internal knowledge systems. These are the various systems that help to capture and share a firm's collective knowledge and experience. Examples of these are know-how and work product databases, searchable repositories of selected emails, libraries of standard form documents, templates and precedents, procedure manuals and practice notes, know-who systems, those that help members of the firm to find out who knows most on a particular subject, and more ambitious applications such as document assembly, e-learning, wikis, podcasts, and blogs as discussed in chapters and of this book. These knowledge systems are often accessible through a firm's intranet. It is in this bottom right quadrant that the discipline of knowledge management should flourish. I define knowledge management as the systematic organization and exploitation of the collective knowledge of a firm as an identifiable activity and responsibility intended to maximize the firm's return on the combined experience of its lawyers. In more prosaic terms, the purpose of knowledge management is to help firms to avoid duplicating effort and resist reinventing the wheel. It is about increasing efficiency, productivity, consistency, and the quality of work undertaken for clients. The focus is on leveraging knowledge rather than, or as well as, leveraging human beings. Generally, law firms have invested far less in this quadrant than in the bottom left. This lack of investment, coupled with the widely acknowledged cultural challenges of encouraging lawyers to share knowledge with one another, has meant that many firms have been disappointed with their efforts in this area. I return to knowledge management in the following section to underline its centrality to the future of legal services. Moving diagonally upwards to the top left, in this quadrant we find what I call client relationship systems. To explain the nature and scope of these systems, I find it helpful to think of the way that we can now track the progress of parcels that we send by major couriers. We simply enter a reference number at the relevant website, and we are able to find out where that parcel might be. We do the same when tracing an eagerly awaited book from Amazon. So too, in the world of law, it should surely be possible for clients to be able to follow the progress that has been made on work undertaken on their behalf, not by playing telephone tag or by waiting for updates in letters, but by logging on to some secure service that can bring the client up to date. Typical facilities here are status reporting, being able to check what progress has been made, financial reporting, the ability to monitor how much time and money has been spent on particular pieces of work, and workrooms, where documents relating to particular deals and disputes can be accessed easily. In other words, websites are set up for particular deals and disputes. Through these sites, variously called online workrooms, client sites, or deal rooms, clients who wish to monitor the progress of their lawyers can review the latest documents, identify who is actually doing their work, and keep a sharp eye on the amount being charged. And all of this without needing to pin down lawyers at meetings or on the telephone. English-based law firms led the world in this area by developing specifically branded client sites. In for example, Allen & Overy was first to this market with new change. Anderson Legal, as then was, announced its deal site, and Linklaters launched clients at Linklaters. In a sense, what is happening here is that clients are being offered access to information, directly or indirectly, that is held within the law firm's systems. For example, in securing information about time and money spent on work, the client is, actually or metaphorically, dipping into a law firm's financial systems. Some firms do indeed provide, under secure conditions, direct access into parts of their systems, while others make information available in a more sanitized form. I regard these systems as client relationship systems, alongside newer techniques such as social networking, instant messaging, and video conferencing, because they can deepen and strengthen the communication channels between client and firm. They do not fundamentally change the nature of legal service. Rather, they can provide new and improved ways of delivering traditional service. The transparency that they bring often makes lawyers a little nervous. I liken this reaction to that of the owner of a restaurant when asked by a diner if they might see into the kitchen. The owner may feel rather apprehensive and indeed may engage in some frantic tidying up, but it would be inappropriate, if not suspicious, if he denied them entry. The same goes for law firms. To deny access to such information may well prejudice the trust between law firm and client. The fourth and final quadrant of the grid holds systems that I refer to as online legal services. These are generally regarded as the most controversial applications of legal technology on the grid. Often, but not always, these are illustrations of disruptive legal technologies, as I explain in Chapter 4. The broad idea here is that legal knowledge and expertise is made available online rather than being secured in the time-honored manner of one-to-one consultative advisory service. One approach here is to provide clients with direct access to law firms' knowledge systems. This sometimes happens unintentionally when law firms promote the power, depth, and richness of their internal knowledge systems. Some clients quite naturally ask whether, as long-standing recipients of conventional advice, they could perhaps enjoy access to some of these resources. Unwittingly, law firms find themselves offering online services in this way. Aside from client access to firms' knowledge systems, a variety of other techniques and technologies belong in this category. When firms issue news flashes, personalized alerts, and updates in electronic form, they are providing modest online legal services. More ambitiously, online systems can help clients automatically to assemble documents. They can provide broad legal guidance, and using expert systems techniques, can even provide legal advice or diagnoses. Also in this quadrant is online dispute resolution, see Section 6. In this corner of the grid, we find significant and often radically new service opportunities for the legal world, underpinned by new business models. If firms seek to charge for such services, they cannot sensibly do so on an hourly billing basis. Instead, a fixed license fee is more appropriate. But crucially, the test of whether or not a service is an online legal service is not whether a charge is levied, nor is the test whether what is on offer can be called advice. Online legal service simply involves the provision across the internet of structured professional content, information, news, guidance, processes, methodology, knowledge, expertise, or advice in a way that adds value to clients. I am often asked which parts of the grid are more strategically significant than others. In Transforming the Law, I discussed this at some length and also identified 8 possible strategies for law firms. For now, however, taking a helicopter view, it is worth drawing a firm distinction between applications to the left of the vertical, client internal line, and systems to the right. Generally, I believe that there is little competitive advantage to be gained from being first to the legal market with systems to the left of this vertical line. True, firms can find themselves at a competitive disadvantage by not investing in such systems, but by and large, a promising application on this left-hand side of the grid can usually be replicated with ease by potential imitators. Even in the top left quadrant, where innovative new ways of working with clients might be identified, it is hard to imagine such an application that cannot swiftly be copied. Clients will often expect a wide range of facilities to the left of the vertical line, and will rarely be overwhelmed for long by a system in either quadrant. In contrast, I believe that competitive advantage can be secured by law firms in the two quadrants to the right of the line. This must be correct. A law firm should be superior to another not by dint of its plumbing towards the left-hand side, but because of the way it captures and shares knowledge internally bottom right, and imaginatively and creatively makes that available to clients externally top right. Law firms are in the knowledge business and not the technology business. While the technology provides vital infrastructure, it is knowledge systems that can and will differentiate law firms. 5. The importance of knowledge systems. It is worth taking a quick detour to drive home the importance of knowledge systems for lawyers. I begin by repeating myself. In the introduction to The Future of Law, I related one of my favorite stories, one that is worth rehearsing here, as follows. One of the world's leading manufacturers of electric power tools is said to take its new executives on an induction course, at the opening session of which they are asked to consider a slide which depicts an image of a gleaming power drill. Is this what the company sells? They are asked. The executives are rather hesitant, but collectively pluck up the courage to concede that, yes, this is indeed what their new employer sells. It seems rather obvious. However, the trainers, with a flourish, immediately confront the executives with another slide, that of a photograph of a hole neatly drilled in a wall. That is what we actually sell, it is claimed with ill-concealed pleasure. Very few of our customers are passionately committed to the presence of electric power tools in their homes. They want holes. And it is your job, as new executives, to provide ever more competitive, efficient, and imaginative ways of giving our customers what they want, of putting holes in their walls. Since writing about that story in one, I have told it again, at innumerable seminars and conferences, and each time have asked, what is the hole in the wall in the context of legal services? The power drill in the legal world, it might be said, is traditional, one-to-one consultative advisory service, often delivered on an hourly billing basis. But is that actually what clients of law firms want? Is it to this that they are passionately committed? To think so, I argue, is to confuse the medium with the message. When I ask lawyers about holes in walls, I am really asking, what value is it that lawyers bring to the markets they serve? Over the years, only 2 responses to that question have struck me as satisfactory. I deal with one here and defer the other, relating to risk management, until later in the book see Section 6. The first answer came to me, in fact, not as a direct response to one of my queries but in the course, one day, of surfing the web. I came across a website of KPMG, the global audit and tax firm. Their mission statement, or at least part of it, I discovered, ran as follows. We exist to turn our knowledge into value for the benefit of our clients. One, is this not a wonderful way to capture the essence of professional service? In a wide variety of disciplines, professional advisors have knowledge, expertise, experience, insight, and know-how that they apply in the particular circumstances of given clients. The hole in the wall on this account is the knowledge to which clients want access, or more precisely, the application of that knowledge in their specific circumstances. Notice that the KPMG rendition does not flow along the following lines. We exist to provide one-tune consultative advisory service, delivered in long reports or at extended meetings on an hourly billing basis. On the contrary, the mission statement is silent as to the way in which the professional's knowledge is turned into value. It follows, I believe, that if advisors can find less expensive, quicker, less forbidding, more convenient, higher quality means of turning their knowledge into value, then clients will readily welcome this. To turn knowledge into value often requires the support of knowledge systems. It has generally been said that UK firms more readily embrace these systems than their counterparts in the US. This was confirmed in 2. when an interesting study concluded that U.S. law firms invest less in knowledge management than European practices. Knowledge management is about capturing, nurturing, and recycling the collective expertise of a business. In a law firm, this means building up readily accessible bodies of standard documents, procedures, checklists, and advice, so that duplication of effort is avoided and clients benefit from the combined experience of many lawyers. The study investigated 71 major law firms around the world, % of which were expected to spend more than $1 million on knowledge management in two. The apparent parsimony here of U.S. legal businesses sits significantly alongside the fact that U.S. firms are generally more profitable than their counterparts in Europe. Of course, this is not just because they save cash on knowledge management. It is, at least in part, because they often handle legal work, in the terminology of Chapter 2, in a bespoke fashion where UK firms will standardize and systematize. Bespoke work takes longer, and because lawyers still bill by the hour, more work means more income. The efficiencies brought by knowledge management often mean fewer hours, which means less cash. As long as it prevails, as I say in Section 5, hourly billing provides a systemic disincentive for investment in knowledge management. Note again that when law firms charge on a fixed fee basis, there is frequently much greater interest in knowledge management because time saved is of more direct value to them. 5. The client grid. In transforming the law, I confine the grid to the analysis of law firms. I have since found that a similar grid can usefully be applied to in-house legal departments. I have now formalized this, and it is presented in Figure 5. The horizontal axis of the original grid remains unchanged. The vertical axis, however, has been relabeled. At the bottom is legal department, while at the top is the business. In other words, systems below the line are those that are used within the in-house legal department, whereas those above the line are directly accessible by non-lawyers within the organization. I am using the term the business to refer here, generically, to the clients of the in-house legal department itself. Wandering around the grid once more, the category of back-office systems on the client grid is broadly similar to that within law firms. Here again we find word processing, electronic mail, instant messaging, document management, hardware, networks, and so forth. They serve the same broad functions as they do in law firms, and similar benefits will accrue. The crucial distinction here, however, is that most legal departments have very little say in what particular systems are available for their use. An in-house legal department tends to be one relatively small user of a broader range of systems being deployed across the organization. In-house legal departments very rarely have their own technology functions. Instead, they are internal customers of some central IT department or provider. Fig. 5. The client grid. As for the bottom right, the same types of systems fall into this category as in law firms, including know-how databases, precedent libraries, internet services, document assembly systems, wikis, archives, and opinions. In principle, these internal knowledge systems should be more attractive to in-house legal departments than to most law firms. The latter, insofar as they are providing services on an hourly billing basis, will always tend to be wary about knowledge systems if they bring excessive efficiencies that the market does not yet seem to be demanding. In contrast, the in-house legal department has a direct interest in managing its knowledge resources as efficiently as possible. It is surprising, therefore, that many general counsels say that they have insufficient budget available to invest either in professional support lawyers or know-how specialists, or indeed in systems, such as document assembly, advanced intranets, e-learning, or suites of standard form documents. At some stage, they may need to spend to save. In the top left, we have what I call corporate relationship systems. These are the applications that are designed to enhance the communication channels and the relationships between an in-house department and the rest of the organization in which it sits. Given that the in-house departments and their clients are all under the one virtual roof, there should be all manner of opportunities for harnessing the power of technology in the delivery of legal services. This can extend beyond status reporting and workrooms. For example, into workflow applications so that the input of in-house lawyers can easily be integrated within the wider business practices and process of the business. In-house legal departments are often, rather unfairly, regarded as a hindrance rather than facilitators. On several occasions, I have heard senior business people refer to their in-house lawyers as the business obstruction unit. Sophisticated clients, however, realize that the activities and operations of their organizations often do raise significant legal risks. If in-house lawyers are to be consulted in the traditional way and offer their services as consultative advisors, to avoid any impression of obstruction, they should take advantage of new and emerging techniques for streamlining the process by which they communicate with their clients. This could mean instant messaging, social networking, wikis, or perhaps websites into which clients can easily dip to determine progress and retrieve documents and advice. Better still, these tools should make it easier for in-house lawyers to provide input earlier in the life cycle of their clients' affairs. The fourth quadrant of the client grid, the top right, I call online legal support services. The same sorts of technologies can be used here as by law firms, but once again, I can see a far stronger imperative for in-house lawyers to embrace these systems. Given that it is simply not possible for in-house lawyers to guide and counsel each and every individual in the organizations in which they work, it is surely attractive to find different ways of making their legal expertise available to non-lawyers. Whether these online facilities provide practical, business-focused guidance, or the ability to generate standard and safe documents, or legal risk analysis tools, or perhaps personalized legal updates and awareness raising through e-learning, the common theme is the same, that legal knowledge and expertise is spread across the organization with the support of it. Radically new models for legal service can be conceived here, with legal assistance being delivered by knowledge-based online services as a complement to the traditional offering by the in-house lawyers themselves. In-house lawyers can multi-source too. Fig. 5. Aligning the grids. In proposing this grid for in-house legal departments, I hope that it is found to be as useful as it seems to have been in some law firms, as a way of understanding potential uses of technology, as a tool for analyzing the current and future spread of systems, and as a method to help to prioritize amongst available options. We should be clear that the client grid and the law firm grid are not distinct from one another. On closer examination, I have found that they are coming together in a telling way. I find it helpful to imagine, as depicted in Figure 5, a client grid sitting above a law firm grid and the two drawing towards one another. When we align the grids in this way, we create, as shown in Figure 5, a common area for the systems of legal departments and law firms. Take, for example, the back-office systems available to in-house lawyers. These are substantially extended when the grids come together, because much of the data that in-house counsel will require for management information purposes are precisely those that law firms make available in what I call client relationship systems. In other words, much of the data that in-house counsel, ideally, would like to process, data about law firms and the work being undertaken for them, are held in law firm systems which, in turn, are made available through client relationship systems. This data then slots neatly, as it were, into the back-office systems of legal departments. Fig. 5. Common systems. The same goes for the internal knowledge systems of a legal department. When the grids come together, the systems of the law department sit alongside the online legal and knowledge services provided by law firms. From the enlightened client's point of view, they should become integrated. This effectively extends the internal knowledge systems of a legal department to embrace the externalized knowledge systems and the online legal services of law firms. In other words, the knowledge systems at the disposal of in-house lawyers are not simply their own internal systems, which, as I observe, tend to be insufficiently resourced, but also include the online legal and knowledge services provided by a variety of law firms. If law firms are either providing access to their know-how systems or providing dedicated online legal services, then these become part of the knowledge armory available to in-house counsel. And it is it that enables this extension to the knowledge facilities at the disposal of clients. This coming together of the grids is a conceptual representation of law firms and legal departments working much more closely with one another and sharing data and knowledge more freely. The net result for the client is that they have readier and easier access to many of the data, information, and knowledge resources that they need. Fig. 5 Data and knowledge sharing in practice, however, the world is considerably more complicated than pulling two diagrams together, not least because very few in-house legal departments, if any, work with one firm alone. And to muddy the water still further, there is not a law firm in the world that I have heard of that has only one client. This means that the one-to-one mapping of law firm grid to client grid is an oversimplification of what happens in the actual legal marketplace. The conjoining of grids may be a useful way of highlighting the attraction for legal departments in having greater connectivity with law firms, because the model shows the way in which their facilities are considerably enhanced. But we need a richer model, on paper and in practice, if we are to reflect the fact that in-house legal departments tend to instruct more than one law firm, some instruct many hundreds, and that law firms are engaged by numerous, and often very many, clients. From a systems point of view, and here is the crux, the in-house legal department should want ready and easy access to the systems and services of all the law firms they instruct, while the law firm should want a simple and convenient way of making appropriate information and systems available to the many clients that it serves. So, how do we make this happen? How do we establish the many-to-many relationships that I am envisaging here? It helps for this purpose to distinguish between the way in which law firms' client relationship systems and clients, back-office systems might come together, I call this data sharing, as depicted in Figure 5, and the techniques for conjoining law firms, online legal services and clients' internal knowledge systems, knowledge sharing, as shown in Figure 5. 5. Data sharing during the dot-com period. We saw the rapid emergence of a law firm-centric approach to data sharing between law firms and their clients. On this model, law firms, effectively, set up their own separate websites and clients were invited to visit them. In late September 2, within hours of one another, two of the world's largest and most respected law firms, Linklaters and Allen & Overy, launched this kind of online facility for clients. Linklaters' service, Clients at Linklaters, provided clients with secure access to a single website technically, an extranet containing customized contact information, financial reports, updates, and access to documents relating to particular deals. Allen & Overy's service was Nuchinch Case Room. It was designed to provide litigation clients with access to secure websites containing the key documents relating to particular cases, including witness statements, expert reports, summaries of progress, and timetables. Clients at Linklaters and Nuchinch Case Room were examples of the first wave of data sharing systems, tools, that sought to enhance the working relationship between lawyers and their clients. Soon after, Clifford Chance, now the world's largest law firm, announced a similar online facility, while a much smaller six-partner firm, Fiddler & Pepper, showed that this technology was not just for the multinational giants. These virtual deal rooms, as they often came to be known, captured the imagination of many lawyers, although many more understandably confessed to being confused by the terminology. Legal technologists also talked variously of shared legal websites, digital workspaces, and online reporting. But the central idea was straightforward and important, that a type of website could be set up to enable clients to monitor progress on work being undertaken for them, to look at documents, to offer their own input, and generally to keep in touch. A problem quickly became apparent to clients who were keen on these systems, those who instructed many law firms, and some of the organizations involved engaged hundreds, found it unacceptable to have to log onto the many different systems. An in-house counsel who worked with, say, 10 law firms had to visit each of the 10 facilities to gather up the data it required, and to avail itself of the services on offer. Plainly, this was deeply unattractive and far from practical. Instead of visiting many different sites, clients began to say that they wanted to monitor their entire matter load from one single, online location. They wanted the sum total of law firms' client relationship systems to be integrated and made available to them, either as one dedicated master site or perhaps sitting on their own intranets. In either event, rather than visiting many different sites, clients were keen to be able to monitor their entire matter load, as well as their panel of external lawyers, from one single online location. Thus, if a particular client had 3 deals and 4 disputes being conducted for it by 7 different firms, it would not need to visit 7 different sites, but would have the information about all 7 distilled and available to it on one site. This would be more convenient than consulting a series of different sites, especially when supplemented by facilities to enable clients to undertake comparative analysis of their lawyers, assessing, for example, the relative productivity and efficiency of the various firms currently acting for them. In contrast, in the early days of online deal rooms and status reporting, a number of major firms around the world genuinely thought that if their systems were demonstrably superior to those of competitors, then clients might abandon these less technically able firms in favor of the high-tech first mover. This was naive. For reasons that extend well beyond it, clients prefer to spread their legal work across a variety of providers, and this preference was not affected in the least by the advent of any online systems, no matter how attractive. Nonetheless, for a while, the various firms with these first law firm-centric data sharing systems jostled at some putative starting line, each arguing to clients that their tool should become the standard. This initial skirmish was rather melodramatically, but transiently, termed the Battle of the Deal Rooms. It hardly moved clients. There were strong analogies, then with email systems of 5 years previously, when clients rightly bemoaned the need to log on every morning to the numerous different systems of different law firms. This had been entirely inconvenient, and the answer had been the universal mailbox, into which all emails generally came, irrespective of the systems from which they had been sent. Client sites, it was being asserted by some informed in-house lawyers, would soon need to be as integrated as contemporary email. Meanwhile, other in-house counsel took a different and much more adventurous tack. They opted for electronically linking many law firms to many clients on the basis of what can be termed a client-centric model. On this approach, the client makes available some internet-based service and requires its external law firms to post the data in a specified format, one that clearly suits the client. From the client's point of view, the many contributions of their various outside advisors can thereby be brought together into one single body of data. In 2, British American Tobacco (BAT) and Ford Motor Company launched such a system. It was called Anequa, and it was conceived by BAT and Ford as the focal point for the conduct of work undertaken for them, as a kind of electronic master file containing all sorts of relevant documentation derived from many law firms, and as a communication center linking these companies to their professional providers. For any given deal or dispute, Anequa enabled BAT and Ford to retrieve relevant documents, monitor costs and invoices, generate and file tailored reports, and send and receive messages that themselves would be automatically attached to appropriate online files. The driving force behind Anequa was a passion for closer and more effective collaboration between BAT and Ford and those with whom they worked, including their lawyers, domain name managers, patent agents, and inventors. The system brought all diverse strands of work and advisors under the one virtual roof. This then was a tool, and a powerful one at that enabled BAT and Ford to manage external law firms as one coherent body. A number of other major organizations, such as BP, followed suit and developed Anequa-like systems for themselves. Interestingly, BAT added an extra edge with Anequa by making it unambiguously clear on launch that its use by their professional providers was not optional. If you wanted to continue advising BAT's intellectual property function in the future, you had to use Anequa. Full stop. Rarely in this field, if ever, had an injunction been so starkly formulated. And no exception was therefore made for partners in law firms who were not sure if the internet was a good thing or if it would last. From the client's point of view, the client-centric approach to data sharing, as pioneered in Anaqua, was extremely powerful. Clients who had found it unsatisfactory to have to visit the many different sites of their many advisors now had a one-stop shop. More, they were able to monitor their entire matter load from one single, online location. The center of gravity became the work and convenience of the client, and not that of the lawyer or other professional. However, just as clients found the law firm-centric approach to be unworkable, the same became the case for the client-centric system. Law firms understandably balked at the idea of having to feed information into the systems of numerous different clients, each no doubt requiring the postings to be in different formats. For major clients, of course, law firms were willing to suffer the inconvenience. But most seasoned legal technologists saw this as a temporary solution that was bound to be superseded in due course by a more flexible setup. To this day, there are client-centric systems in place, but from the point of view of the legal market generally, they are piecemeal and inefficient. There may be one exception to this rather sweeping rejection, and here I am projecting ahead. I anticipate that a rash of websites will be created for particular clients, which will act, effectively, as online communities for panels of law firms. This idea is introduced in Section 4. Given the shortcomings of, and the tensions between the law firm-centric and the client-centric approaches, what other options are there? One was created in Australia, in 2, when a group of commercial lawyers collaborated in developing Secure Document e-Exchange, a website for the management of legal transactions. The service provided an independent virtual deal room facility, enabling all documents and communications on a deal to be stored electronically in one online location. Law firms who used the facility could communicate and share drafts with one another and with their clients, and they could also use the tool internally. The service, independent of any single firm, contrasted sharply with the initial approach in England, where several leading practices had launched their own branded services. Secure Document e-Exchange was made available worldwide. It is still operational, but it has not been adopted as a de facto standard across the global legal profession. Interestingly, a later and analogous attempt in 2, by several top London-based firms to collaborate in developing a similar system, never became airborne. There were also intriguing opportunities here for third parties to offer data sharing services, neutral territory, owned, developed, and controlled by intermediaries. Initially, the most prominent provider of such a service was Intralinks, an American company that had been specializing in digital workspaces since the late 1990s. Leading U.S. law firms quickly favored Intralinks, again in contrast with the major UK-based practices, with their proprietary law firm-centric services. There was always going to be competition, however. Some senior in-house lawyers still felt they should be setting the standards. Various investment banks and accountants also had strong views and vested interests, while an array of technologists were keen to promote dedicated private networks. Proposed standards for the interoperability of deal rooms began to ooze into the marketplace from all directions, bringing to mind the old, ironic IT quip that the great thing about standards is that there are so many to choose from. Today, there are still many players jockeying for position. Some of the systems did not fulfill their early promise, largely, as I argue in Section 2, because many attempts to use these systems were in support of bespoke, large-scale transactions, whereas they are better suited to more routine deals, where clients are keen to keep the costs low. In the long term, I have little doubt that online deal rooms and data sharing environments will be commonplace. The great unanswered question is, who will emerge as the leading providers? If we are keen to introduce a generic facility that will benefit all conceivable clients, from citizen clients through to multinational corporations, and all law firms, from sole practitioners to global firms, then we need some kind of open legal exchange. I borrow the term exchange from the dot-com era, when we heard much about B2B, business-to-business exchanges. which were electronic marketplaces that, in effect, easily linked buyers and sellers as well as intermediaries who were participating in the same commercial space. I have been advocating this tack for some years now, for example in the preface to the paperback edition of my book Transforming the Law. I still believe that the obvious answer is the development of a hub, a business-to-business exchange, which becomes a one-stop shop for clients, and simultaneously a single pot into which law firms are able to load all sorts of material. Whether this hub is a single system underpinned by a very clear set of standards, or a virtual system defined by a settled suite of protocols and standards, is an issue I am happy to leave open. What matters most, it seems to me, as shown in Figure 5, is that clients can easily access in one place all the information that has been provided by their various external firms, while these firms themselves are required to transfer their data to one place in a uniform format. I have hoped for some years that one of the well-resourced global legal publishers might see the opportunity here, because I have feared such an exchange would never come about if it were left to a group of law firms to agree the standards by themselves. So far, the publishers have not yet committed, although I do know they are interested in principle. Perhaps an entrepreneur will step in here. Only time will tell, but in due course, I have no doubt such an exchange will be in place. This will be the platform that brings together the top left of the law firm grid and the bottom left of the client grid. Fig. 5.
Pivotal.
A hub or B2B legal exchange. Where does this leave law firms that have already invested in their own client relationship systems? In all likelihood, in due course, their own systems will be rendered largely redundant. That said, the firms that have been providing access through their own services should find it easiest, technically and culturally, to feed the relevant files into any new exchange. In strategic terms, though, the opportunities for law firms to gain competitive advantage simply by offering online data sharing facilities are rapidly diminishing. One last thought on data sharing. It may be that the hub idea is superseded or swallowed up by some social networking system, as discussed in Sections 3, and for the next generation of social networking systems developed for business may indeed integrate with the more traditional online exchange. The hub might be delivered online via a social network as adapted for business use. 5. Knowledge sharing. Turning now from the sharing of data between law firms and clients to the sharing of knowledge. Here we have seen the law firm-centric model in operation much more than the client-centric approach. Innumerable law firms over the last decade have enjoined their clients to visit their websites or extranets, where rich repositories of know-how and insight are said to await them. Once again, though, as with client-centric data sharing systems, clients quickly tired of navigating through the many different sites of the numerous firms that advised them. More, these websites often became yet another contributor to the information overload from which most in-house lawyers suffer. On top of the myriad glossy newsletters, bulletins, updates, magazines, reports, and kindred bump that were already assailing them, they were now being offered the chance to surf a whole host of law firm websites. In response to this onslaught of information, and in large part as a corrective to inconvenience of the law firm-centric approach to knowledge sharing, a fascinating initiative was launched in London in 2003, the Banking Legal Technology (BLT) Group. 9 large investment banks, most of them household names, asked and then cajoled 5 leading law firms in London to set up a single knowledge portal, a website, really, into which these firms were encouraged to place, at no charge, their formidable combined collections of updates and news flashes, analyses of legal developments, practice notes, even some precedent documents, and so on. Previously, all of these materials had been sent by the firms to these clients in a variety of formats, from glossy publications to email alerts. But the clients found they were inundated and thought it wise to have all such documents pulled together into one easily accessible online facility. From the point of view of these clients, as I say in Section 4, where I discuss BLT in greater detail, this project made perfect sense. In the event, it has worked better than the cynics, within and beyond law firms had expected, the community of participating banks has grown. I have always been a strong admirer of this initiative. Indeed, I regularly use it as a case study in collaboration amongst clients. Yet, as a generic approach to knowledge sharing amongst lawyers in firms and in-house counsel, I think it is open to three criticisms. The first is that, for practicing lawyers in in-house legal departments, the types of materials that are generally held in the BLT portal do not directly offer help. They do not tend to offer practical suggestions about what to do. There is not so much actual know-how. Instead, BLT offers a large repository of possibly relevant source materials. They are generally well-researched, thorough, and accurate, but an in-house lawyer still has to plow through these sources in search of an answer. It assists rather than replaces research. Often, however, the busy in-house lawyer will not have time to undertake research and would prefer online guidance that is more practical, punchy, and action-oriented. This is why some skeptics claim that the BLT service is more of a tool for information specialists and professional support lawyers than for in-house lawyers at the coalface. This objection is not a fatal blow for BLT. Instead, it can be looked upon as a call for the next generation of systems. With the collaboration and technical infrastructure in place, the current information service should surely evolve into a central repository of more powerful online services for in-house lawyers, including, for instance, document assembly, intelligent checklists, compliance audits, and e-learning. There is, however, a second and more profound difficulty with the BLT system, that there is excessive overlap and duplication of content. This reflects the way in which the materials are entered into the system. In a form of blind bidding, the 5 participating firms do not actually see what the others are contributing, and so, on any given topic, are likely to load similar materials. The original conception, I think, was that this blind bidding would stimulate frantic competition. According to some speculative game theory, it was anticipated this would ensure that all firms would always strive to provide the finest and most extensive of materials, in the fear that if they did not, then the others most certainly would. In the event, firms do not behave in this way, and although they contribute handsomely, most do so a little grudgingly. This blind bidding model, I am afraid, rather reflects the unhelpful way that some in-house lawyers, more generally, play law firms off against one another. Far more productive in building up such a common store of materials, I believe, would be to adopt a wiki approach, see Section 3. This would mean that the law firms would have full access to the system, would be able to see one another's contributions, would be encouraged not to duplicate material, but instead would be asked to build, in an evolutionary manner, on the materials that they find there. An evolutionary wiki-based model of collective knowledge would, I suggest, be much more useful and easier to manage than a rather hit-and-miss, blind bidding approach. The third and most fundamental problem with BLT as a generic model for knowledge sharing amongst firms and clients is that membership of the club is restricted. As it stands, access is limited to a very modest number of firms and banks. It is an early example of what I describe in Sections 3 and 4 as closed community peer production. For the clients who are beneficiaries, if new tools and a wiki approach were embraced, then it could evolve into a wonderful resource. But for law firms and clients who are not involved, that is, for most of the legal world, it has not provided protocols or de facto standards upon which other systems could build. Accordingly, this is not an all-purpose solution for the legal profession. It is a useful fix for a select few, and is driven by clients who are fortunate enough to have massive collective purchasing power. If similar such services were developed by other communities, then the old problems of law firm-centric and client-centric systems would arise. Firms would be feeding their knowledge into diverse systems, while clients would have different services to consult. I believe, again, that the best long-term solution to the challenge of knowledge sharing between firms and clients, one that could support closed communities and mass collaboration, would be some kind of hub or exchange, see Figure 5. This would be a one-stop shop for clients, and a single pot into which law firms would be able to inject their knowledge resources for all their clients. And once again, I also advocate that this hub should be provided by a third party. Even more so than with data sharing systems, the strongest candidates for establishing standard knowledge sharing hubs would be those legal publishers with experience of implementing major systems, with expertise in security of systems, a pivotal issue, and the added advantage of having their own content, for example databases of legislation and case law, to add into the mix. Involvement of such an intermediary could also lead to a more rapid adoption of the hub across the legal community, by law firms and clients, both large and small, by the courts, by third-party know-how and knowledge providers, and even by other professional service providers. It would be here that closed communities of in-house lawyers might also share their resources. Ideally, there should be one hub only internationally. This vision could be achieved through one major system, a legal Wikipedia perhaps. Alternatively, the solution could be a more basic platform, agreed standards and protocols, supporting, in effect, a virtual hub for knowledge sharing, and one that ideally dovetailed with the analogous systems for data sharing. 5. The challenge for clients. What is the motivation here for clients? Why should they be interested in embracing IT and data and knowledge sharing solutions in the manner I suggest? In responding to these questions, I feel increasingly sure-footed. Through my own research into in-house legal departments and at countless workshops and conferences with general counsel during the past few years, I have been able to gain a very strong sense of the commercial pressures now facing in-house legal departments. My particular focus in this chapter is in-house lawyers in commerce and industry, but my thinking is also applicable to lawyers who work within the public and voluntary sectors. In one way or another, the great majority of general counsel with whom I speak share a common dilemma. Most are under considerable pressure from their boards to reduce their internal head count. By natural wastage or harsher means, legal departments are being asked to cut their numbers. On top of this, there is generally an even greater pressure to reduce substantially the amount that is spent on external law firms. The fees paid to many law firms are regarded by many executive and non-executive board members alike as spiraling out of control. And to be clear, from my discussions at board level, it seems that many in-house departments are not regarded from above as sufficiently tough on fees when dealing with large, experienced firms. On top of these pressures on headcount and external spend, there is a third factor: legal and compliance departments, and they are often rolled together as one, are expected, year on year, to take on what seems like an ever-increasing workload. Worse still, I am told that this work is higher risk than in the past. In short, when it comes to legal and compliance services, many major corporations and financial institutions have in-house legal functions that are being compelled to provide much more for much less. If we also fold into this mix the undeniable propensity of law firms to want to increase their hourly rates each year, as well as their overall profitability and fee income, then we must surely see some remarkable tensions are being created. Something has to give. This is absolutely pivotal, and I wish that all solicitors in private practice would think more deeply about this. If the pressures just noted continue, and the recent credit crunch crisis gives us cause to believe that they are likely to increase, then some fundamental changes are needed. I submit that there are only two sustainable strategies here. The first is for in-house departments to continue working in the traditional and time-honored way, with the usual combination of in-house work and external service, but to be radically more efficient in so doing. The second strategy is for general counsel to collaborate in one way or another, and so share the costs of some common legal expenses. In short, the options are either to cut the costs, and I call this the efficiency strategy, or to share the costs, which I refer to as the collaboration strategy. A third strategy, the elimination strategy, involves stopping doing certain kinds of legal work, but I regard this as a subset of the efficiency strategy. The good news for clients, brought by this book, is that both the efficiency strategy and the collaboration strategy are more achievable today than ever before. In relation to new efficiencies, there are clearly many opportunities for lawyers to run tighter ships. For example, many back-office and administrative functions can be systematized, relocated, or outsourced. More, if in-house lawyers use online status and financial reporting tools to manage their external firms collectively, further efficiencies are likely to result. More fundamental, though, is bringing new efficiencies to the actual delivery of legal services. My aim throughout these pages is to show that novel ways of working in law are rapidly emerging for in-house teams and law firms. For example, there is the promise of engaging less costly labor to carry out routine and repetitive legal work. As chapter shows, this is the era of offshoring, subcontracting, home sourcing, and more. Further, there is also the possibility of ever greater computerization, systemization, packaging, and commoditization, using increasingly mainstream tools such as automatic document drafting systems and e-learning applications. These new tools and new efficiencies are relevant not just for streamlining and taking the cost out of current work. These are the tools that will enable in-house lawyers to grapple with broader and potentially graver challenges, most notably in legal risk management. Every general counsel with whom I speak suggests that their primary function is the management of legal risk, but they are ready to acknowledge that conventional one-to-one consultative advisory service cannot be extended across their organizations to help manage all legal risks. It simply is not possible to have a lawyer on the shoulder of all non-lawyers, and so different tools and methods are needed. Similarly, we have never been better equipped to encourage and introduce collaboration, fueled by various emerging technologies. In a world where social networking systems such as Facebook and knowledge-sharing tools such as Wikipedia are taking humanity by storm, it is a short leap for general counsel, by analogy, as suggested in Section 4, to share and syndicate legal advice and documents, and to club together to tackle problems that they collectively endure, such as regulatory compliance. Our general counsel rushing forward with gusto to embrace either or both the efficiency and collaboration strategies. By and large, they are not. When I speak to them, they agree that, in theory, they need to pursue either or both of the efficiency or collaboration strategies. Indeed, at every meeting I attend on the subject, violent agreement breaks out, and it is acclaimed that this must be the way ahead. So what is the problem? In fact, there are at least two problems. The first is that general counsel, especially in the UK, seem to have little appetite for investing their own time, energy, or money in actually developing efficiency or collaboration solutions. They are busy people, and technology planning and implementation is rarely their core competency. Asking them to pause to reinvent their services and the way they work is like urging them to change the wheel on a moving car. Ideally, they would prefer pre-packed, off-the-shelf solutions that save cash, developed by law firms, and delivered to them with the minimum of hassle. I exaggerate a little, but not much. This problem relates to the second one. There is little incentive for law firms themselves to support the efficiency or collaboration strategies. Most leading firms have been enjoying unprecedented prosperity. Why should they destabilize their businesses with potentially disruptive innovations when clients seem indifferent and competitors themselves are inactive? This is a version of the innovator's dilemma, as introduced in Section 2. The textbook response that most strategy consultants and commentators would venture is quite simple. A law firm should innovate and try to anticipate its clients' needs ahead of competitors so that it creates competitive advantage. However, I find that many successful law firms are more anxious to avoid competitive disadvantage than to secure a lead. Even the finest firms are happy to be part of an elite grouping rather than to lead the pack. For quite different reasons, then, most general counsel and leaders in law firms of today are not sufficiently incentivized or innovative to pursue the efficiency and collaboration strategies. So, what might break this mold? A genuinely innovative law firm could, one that went out on a limb and launched groundbreaking solutions. So might new legal service providers entrepreneurs, or businesses backed by external finance, as permitted under the Legal Services Act perhaps, who challenged the very sustainability of the business model underlying traditional in-house departments and conventional law firms. A third option is that general counsel, in the not-too-distant future, will find the cost pressures on them to be truly intolerable and will have little choice but to overhaul the way they work internally and how they source external legal service. But in-house lawyers should not be waiting for meltdown. They should be preparing for the challenge. In so doing, they should bear in mind, although some do not seem to grasp this, that they have very considerable purchasing power. Today and for years to come, I suspect, for major clients certainly, it will be a buyer's market. I simply cannot understand why general counsel do not push external law firms far harder than they do today. The world's top law firms are sustained, in large part, by the top businesses. By becoming more demanding and discerning, these businesses have it within their grasp to redefine legal service. With regard to technology, I do appreciate that legal departments' internal IT strategies are inhibited, and not least by a lack of cash, ironically. While the budget for a monster piece of litigation may be almost unlimited, funds are rarely available for it or knowledge systems that might prevent legal problems from arising in the first place. Another barrier is that, generally, the technology that in-house lawyers would like to use does not align with the mainstream technology and technologists within organizations. Other than in the bottom left of the client grid, the IT that is central, for example, to the running of manufacturing, retail, or insurance companies bears little relation to the systems discussed in this chapter. It is also not unreasonable to say that many in-house lawyers lack insight into what is actually possible now and likely to be possible soon in the world of legal technology. This is not true of all legal departments, but it is of most. Vitally, though, general counsel should bear in mind that they do not need to become specialists in IT-enabled efficiency or collaboration. They should expect this of the law firms that serve them, because these private legal businesses have far greater technical know-how and resources, and in many cases, they are charging enormous fees, so that some innovation from them can reasonably be expected. In-house counsel seem generally unaware of the influence they can and should have on law firms' IT strategy. On average, for example, UK law firms spend about % of their fee income on technology, yet only a very small proportion of this investment is ever directed to systems for clients. In terms of the law firm grid, most of the expenditure is below the horizontal line. This is partly due to law firms' conservatism and aversion to innovation, but, much more significantly, it is because most clients are not sufficiently demanding. If clients asked more resolutely and regularly, for instance, for online knowledge resources, or collaborative workspaces, or e-learning or document assembly tools, or litigation support systems, then law firms would have little choice but to respond, and respond positively. Again, if clients demanded that law firms decompose their work into separate tasks and were urged to multi-source, in the manner I suggest in Chapter 2, then they would generally toe the line, especially in tougher market conditions, for fear of losing business. This may be unfortunate news for law firms, but one important way for legal departments to overcome their lack of funds is by sharing the systems and innovations with their external advisors in the spirit of the converging grids, as sketched out in Section 5. The main long-term IT challenge for in-house lawyers is to harness the power of technology in tackling their common concerns: compliance, legal risk management, email and document management, and the effective management of law firms. Knowledge systems, and e-business can be deployed to good effect in each of these areas and will, in due course, come to fortify what should be a highly professional legal risk function. Few legal departments have recognized this, although some have started the journey with very impressive early results. I must add that it is not at all clear that in-house lawyers are monitoring the latest technological developments and are poised to exploit them. Phenomena such as wikis, open sourcing, online dispute resolution, social networking, and instant messaging may look like passing fads or technobabble to many. But as this book claims, they are likely to transform the way we live and work, the way we commune and collaborate. Are these new systems being factored into the strategic planning of most legal departments? Are in-house counsel encouraging law firms to think strategically here? Not quite yet, I fear. In managing external law firms and embracing either or both efficiency and collaboration strategies, I am suggesting that in-house legal departments need to be much more strategic and businesslike. More than this, though, in-house lawyers should not think that they are immune from the disintermediation that I suggest hovers as a threat over lawyers in firms. Just as I advocate that law firms must decompose their work into constituent tasks and identify the most efficient ways of sourcing each, then precisely the same approach should be taken by in-house lawyers. The same difficult questions must be asked. Just as it may not be commercially justifiable to have expensive solicitors operating out of expensive city center offices when they rarely, if ever, see clients, then so too with in-house functions. The various options of outsourcing, offshoring, home sourcing, and the rest are as relevant for in-house legal departments as they are for law firms. In-house lawyers will only survive if they can add relevant value over and above alternative sources of legal service. On the face of it, there is a strong case for highly specialist in-house lawyers or WISE and experienced generalists who have an intimate understanding of the business of which they are a part and the industry in which they sit. These internal trusted, expert advisors should play a pivotal role in managing legal risk, resolving and avoiding legal difficulties, overseeing and enabling transactions, directing multi-sourced projects, perhaps even in designing online legal support services, and certainly monitoring and ensuring compliance. It is not obvious, however, that less skilled in-house lawyers of the traditional variety, whose work is largely routine, will make the cut in the long term. And as the law firm and client grids come together, client relationship systems and online legal services of law firms will no doubt insinuate their way directly into the top left and top right quadrants of the business, missing out the in-house counsel, as illustrated in Figure 5. Fig. 5 Disintermediation of in-house lawyers. Does this mean we are shortly to witness the end of in-house lawyers? I think it unlikely, though not unimaginable, that in-house lawyers will fade entirely. As I say, the genuinely expert trusted advisor who lives and breathes the business should always be invaluable. But unless the rest are prepared to drive efficiency and collaboration strategies within their own departments and in the law firms that serve them, their future is far from clear.